Tension outside the FCC as Andy Chan gives a speech inside. The observatory says the strong wind signal number 3 will remain in effect for some time. And in London, a car smashes into security barriers outside Parliament, leaving several people injured.
Hello and a very good evening. Hong Kong National Party convener Andy Chan today insisted independence is the only way out for the territory in a controversial speech at the Foreign Correspondents Club. That's despite the fact that the government is thinking about banning the party because of its advocacy for Hong Kong independence. Christy Leung has our top story tonight.
Mr. Chan, thank you.
A full house with around 100 members attending the luncheon at the Foreign Correspondents Club today. That's amid an ongoing debate over whether the club should have invited Andy Chan to speak on Hong Kong's nationalism.
In political terms, the National Party understands that if Hong Kong were to become truly democratic, Hong Kong's sovereignty must rest with the people of Hong Kong. And there's only one way to achieve this: independence.
That's despite the Security Bureau's announcement last month that it was considering a recommendation by the police to ban the party through the Society's ordinance.
I won't change my stance. If fighting for freedom and dignity caused me to be in jail, then let it be. I mean, we are asking for just democracy, freedom, human rights.
Chan added that the Security Bureau had rejected the party's request last week for disclosure of police surveillance records, internal notes, as well as audio and video recordings related to the party. The Security Bureau has already extended to September 4th the deadline for the party's submission of its representation. Chan said he's still considering whether to reply to Bureau. Today, the FCC reiterated that inviting Chan to give a speech does not mean the club endorses or opposes the speaker's views.
As a club, the main thing we care about is freedom of speech and freedom of the press. We will continue to invite people of all opinions on all subjects, as long as we think that we're not breaking the law.
But still, the government issued a statement right after the event, saying it is totally inappropriate and unacceptable to promote and advocate the independence of Hong Kong. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Well, it's not only Chan, but also pro-democracy protesters who wrestled authorities trying to express themselves at the Foreign Correspondents Club, while the FCC said it neither endorses nor opposes the views of its speakers and panellists. Government officials said there must be limitations to freedom of speech. Meanwhile, the Foreign Ministry in Beijing slammed the FCC for hurting the feelings of the Chinese people. Kena Chu with that story.
Chaos ensued this morning outside the FCC as various groups of protesters assembled. Those supporting Andy Chan struggled to be heard.
It is unfair for the pro-Beijing camp demonstrator to occupy both sides of the road, and we, as the democratic side, as only arranged in a far-away position.
This pro-independence protester who stood at the FCC's front door was carried away by police.
I think the police force has some political consideration. Hong Kong is an international city. We should respect all of the political view.
Also there today were some of the most visible pro-establishment groups, the Treasure Group, Voice of Loving Hong Kong, and Polity HK Social Strategic. The Legislative Council president also gave his views.
Yeah, free speech is not unlimited, and anything talking about independence of Hong Kong will contravene the basic law. Any organization should respect, the constitution of the place.
15 pro-establishment lawmakers accused the FCC of promoting Hong Kong independence by having Andy Chan as a speaker. They also called on the government to take back the building where the FCC is located.
We are now pushing our government to review the policy and to rent the lease to them. We should not allow them to continue this kind of activity.
So, what's the government's take?
We have a very cordial relationship with the FCC. So there's no question of us ceasing relationship at all.
Kana Chu, TVB News.
The strong wind signal number 3 is now in force. The observatory says it will stay up for some time. Under the influence of tropical storm Bibinka, the local weather was mainly cloudy today. There was relatively low visibility in the afternoon, but it turned brighter in the evening. Rain bands associated with Bibinka are forecast to bring squally showers.
In the past few hours, Bibinka remained slow-moving. Bibinka will skirt about 100 kilometers southwest of Hong Kong from tonight to tomorrow morning. Unless Bibinka intensifies significantly or adopts a more northeasterly track, the strong wind signal number 3 will remain in force for some time.
In neighbouring Macau, the signal number 8 has just been hoisted. That replaced the number 3 signal as winds over the enclave strengthened after Bibinka edged closer. Although skies were relatively clear this afternoon, all turbojet ferry services have been suspended. US President Donald Trump has signed a $716 billion defense policy bill and the biggest hike in 9 years to replace aging equipment.
The national defense.
Do you feel the world start moving when there's magic everywhere? Do you believe in magic? 'Cause it will set you free.
The Defense Authorization Act is the most significant investment in our military and our warfighters in modern history, and I am very proud to be a big part of it. We're going to strengthen our military like never, ever before, and that's what we did. America is a peaceful nation, but if conflict is forced upon us, we will fight and we will win.
The bill was named for John McCain after Trump delivered the remarks in Fort Drum, New York, but failed to mention the ailing senator, a decorated war veteran. The bill, which will boost military pay by 2.6%, allows Trump to waive sanctions against countries that bought Russian weapons and now want to buy US military equipment. It also weakens a bid to clamp down on Chinese telecom giant ZTE. The measure beefs up the role of a US panel that reviews foreign investment proposals, a move seen as targeting China. Beijing's Commerce Ministry slammed the act for exaggerated antagonism and vowed to assess its impact on Chinese firms. Taiwan's president gave a speech during her stopover in Los Angeles, the first time in 15 years that a leader of the island has spoken publicly on American soil. The move is likely to anger Beijing. Speaking at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library on Monday, Tsai Ing-wen pledged Taiwan's willingness to jointly promote regional stability and peace under the principles of national interests, freedom and democracy. Her transit in LA was the most high-profile since former leader Chen Shui-bian's 2003 stopover in New York, where he accepted a Human Rights Award and delivered several public speeches. Tsai's trip to Paraguay and Belize comes as the self-ruled island seeks to firm up ties with a dwindling band of diplomatic allies.
Peter Strzok, a longtime US FBI agent who was removed from the investigation into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 election over anti-Trump text messages, has now been fired by the enforcement agency. The FBI had been reviewing Strzok's employment after the politically charged text messages were discovered last year. President Donald Trump's allies have seized on the texts, saying they show the investigation into possible coordination between the Trump campaign and Russia is tainted by political bias.
Recognizing that my texts have created...
And still to come in the news tonight. The High Court rejects two men's applications for an interim injunction against a joint checkpoint at West Kowloon Station. South Korea to ban some 20,000 BMW vehicles from the streets. And Google accused of tracking users' location without their permission. warm welcome back to TVB News. The High Court today turned down two men's applications for an injunction order aimed at halting a joint checkpoint plan at the Expressrail Links West Kowloon station. Sharon Tang reports on why the court thinks there would be a lower risk of injustice by rejecting the application.
The High Court turned down Kok Cheuk Kin's application for an interim injunction against the co-location arrangement. The Singapore ousted lawmaker Sixtus Leung, who, as well as several others, have also filed judicial review applications challenging the joint checkpoint plan. Leung argued that Hong Kong or the public would suffer damage if the court makes a wrong decision now in refusing to grant the interim injunction, only to find the judicial review applications successful. That damage, he argued, would include disruptions to travel plans and possibly liability to pay compensation. Although Judge Anderson Chow accepts that some such damage may arise, he said refusing to grant an interim injunction carries a lower risk of injustice. The judge further noted that granting an interim injunction would delay the opening of the express rail link, and that could lead to financial losses of many millions of dollars per month for transport operators in revenue and maintenance. The court saw no exceptional circumstances in the present case that justify granting the injunction order requested by the applicants. Both Kwok and Leung have to pay legal costs for the government. The pair and three others also filed judicial review applications over the co-location arrangement. The court will handle that at the end of October. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Around 40 members of a local bus union protested against proposed pay adjustments by KMB and Longwin Bus. They stopped buses from leaving a terminal in Sha Tin. Buses, some with passengers, were unable to move as protesters blocked a lane for about 30 minutes. They belong to the Motor Transport Workers General Union. Drivers are upset with KMB's proposed 5% pay increase, saying that's far below what they've demanded.
Overseas again, South Korea will ban some 20,000 BMW vehicles from the streets amid public fears about engine fires. This follows dozens of fires so far this year, which the German car maker has blamed on leaks of coolant in the vehicle's exhaust gas recirculation system. South Korea's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport said the ban will take effect tomorrow. Last month, BMW recalled about 106,000 vehicles of 42 different models, but as of yesterday, 27,000 of them had not received safety checks. Owners of the affected vehicles cannot use their cars except to take them to safety checks. Those who violate the ban could be jailed for up to 1 year. Reports of engine fires have caused alarm among the public, leading to some parking lot operators' refusal to let in BMW vehicles.
Google is tracking your every move. A new investigation found some of the web giant's apps automatically stored your location data without asking. Peter Coveas tells us more.
In today's digital age, many of us share our experiences and our locations. Others want the experience to themselves. And by simply turning off your Google location history, you should have that privacy. But an investigation by the Associated Press discovered that Google is tracking your every move, even if you've turned off your location services.
But what we found is that's not true. There are a bunch of other things that it does in the background that actually pinpoints your location with timestamps to your Google account.
The web giant claims there is another setting which controls web and app activity. This feature is automatically programmed to collect information on your location unless you turn it off.
It's not explained in an upfront way that people can find easily, and their location is being tracked in the background. And this is a very dangerous piece of information. It can identify you, it can pinpoint where you live, where you work, where you shop, and other places where you maybe don't want to share where you've been.
Users don't like that they can be spied on so easily.
I don't think they have the right to collect that kind of data without asking permission. I find, especially with the Facebook thing as well.
But are there legal ways to govern this?
Where we have industries proliferating that are collecting and amassing personal data in ways that we as a society don't accept, and we can absolutely regulate that.
One privacy expert believes the internet giant has to make things easier for users.
There's a discrepancy between what people can understand and what companies are doing. So it goes beyond the expectation or the reasonable expectation of people.
The expectations of Google is to make money. The more information and the more detailed it is, helps them target their ads. Peter Corveos, TVB News.
That's the news.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.